Gurmagad Cahirlock, and thank you all for coming in today to the Joint Oireachtas Committee. Really appreciate your time, and thank you also for the contributions you made to help government produce the National Housing Strategy for Disabled People, which was agreed earlier this year. I think it's really important that we have a strategy. I accept the criticisms. I've heard them. They're not news to me. But I do think it's important to have a baseline and to have a strategy, at least, something to aspire to. And John, you said it absolutely correctly in terms of housing and it being an absolute fundamental human right. And without adequate, secure housing that meets your personal needs, it is very hard for anybody to go to school, to go to college, to go to training, to go to work, to take your place in society and to take your place in your community. So there's no dispute about that, and there's no dispute at this committee on that issue. And we absolutely have to not only aspire to championing that ambition, but making it a reality. And Housing for All goes that way, is a good step in the right direction. The National Housing Strategy, which emphasises equal access and which puts an objective of promoting inclusion of disabled people in communities, that's really, really important. But in terms of the issues that you've raised and the universal design, the Part M, or the wheelchair livable, the universal design, the Part M regulations, they're all caught up, and it's a very technical discussion. But in practical terms, it has a huge difference and can have a huge benefit for people's just quality of life and living standards. So I suppose, and I've had the opportunity to meet with the Irish Wheelchair Association, and thank you for the submissions you've provided me with and the information you've provided me. And I do think, as a committee chair, we should be putting in our report a very strong recommendation to the department supporting the amendment. It is very, very important that this committee not only hears the request, but actually endorses and supports it, and does what we can to progress that. The issues around the local authorities. I was honoured to be elected to Dublin City Council for years, and it's great now that they're starting to capture, since 2021, capture in a field the requirement for wheelchair accessible and wheelchair livable accommodations. But I don't accept the local authorities' suggestion that they can't capture it on historic applications. And the reason I say that, and I suppose I would like to know from your members' experience and from your own experience, anybody who's on a housing list has been on it now for a couple of years, unless they've joined since 2021, but they're going to have been on it for at least 5 years. And every 2 years, you're required to reconfirm your need for housing. So what I don't understand is, are the local authorities actually saying that when they're doing that process, when they're sending out those letters, they're not actually capturing that information? I'd be really interested to know if that is your experience. And I think, again, Chair, as a committee, we need to take that up with the CCMA and the local authorities, because there is no excuse for that information not being captured. And then, and that will deal with the social housing, and it is absolutely correct to say that, we're committed to 10,000 new social built homes for the next 10 years. But we also have affordable homes and private homes. And every local authority has committed to doing a housing needs assessment for the first time, and that is meant to capture housing need of all descriptions. And it is, I couldn't believe it actually when I heard that the census wasn't capturing this information. It's such a massive missed opportunity, not just for housing, hugely important for housing, but for many other social infrastructure and social services. So again, Chair, I would be suggesting that that's a recommendation that the Joint Oireachtas Committee will make in our report, that future census captures that information. But I suppose my question to the witnesses, and I can see I'm out of time almost, but just if you can come back on that question around the local authorities, is that what they're saying, that when they're getting people to reconfirm their need, that they're not capturing that? And then in terms of the universal design, I think we should circulate all of the information, because it's very technical information on the differences that between universal design and wheelchair livable accommodation. Gormagad.
Somebody wish to just answer in the 2 minutes there the question directly on local authority information gathering?
I suppose our information to date is that we're being told at all of the steering groups, or most of the steering groups, that they do not have that information to hand, and they do not have the resources. We would think that, yes, when the assessment of need comes around again, it should be in that, and maybe it will. We met with Minister Burke a couple of months ago, and we spoke about this, and like that, he was surprised, and he said that he would push out through the local authorities to make sure that that piece of work was done. But that's kind of where we're at the moment, and that's the information we're receiving from the committees every time the question is asked.
Okay, thank you for that. I think that's an issue then that we need to raise. Gormagad.
Absolutely. There's another minute there left if anybody wishes to comment on Senator Fitzpatrick's observations.
I suppose maybe the universal design theme. I might just bring Brian in on that one there. He's joined us virtually, if he can. Is Brian there?
Yeah, thanks, Rosaleen. Yeah,
Mr. Condon, go ahead, please.
It's our experience that many architects, never mind developers, do not understand the ethos of universal design and wheelchair livable housing. Basic universal design is not wheelchair livable design. It's not wheelchair livable housing. Wheelchair livable home is a home that a wheelchair user can use every part of the home, from the utility room to the kitchen to the bedrooms. And this is the fundamental difference between the Part M document and a wheelchair livable home. One of our users is a disabled mother, currently supporting her in a house that's built to Part M, the building regulations. She can get into the living room and her bedroom, but she can't cook a meal for her family or help her kids to bed because the rooms are upstairs. There's huge inconsistencies around guidance for a wheelchair livable house. Basic UD guidance recommends a 1500mm turning circle. UD++ recommends an 1800mm turning circle. A power wheelchair requires a minimum of 1800mm turning circle.
Thanks.
We recently met with. Sorry,
Mr. Condon, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to keep things moving along because we're on time slots. But that information's there. But just to capture, so I'm clear on what Senator Fitzpatrick is suggesting, that I would suggest, and I think the committee would have an agreement from this session, and the information you've presented us and the information we're picking up through questions and answers, to report to the Minister on the findings from this. I also do think that it's the Minister's remit on census as well. And the other suggestion you have made was to engage with the CCMA to ask caption that data. So I think there are three really good suggestions, and we'll follow up on that. I'm going